Hey guys, Bobby Bollinger here, and today I'm bringing you my Week 3 predictions for NFL football. Now, last week went better than actually expected for me, and I went 11.5 to 4.5, thanks to the Vikings-Packers tie, which shouldn't have been a tie, but regardless. That brings my season total to 19 to 13, which is a better start than I usually get, I'll admit. But on to the picks. Thursday night game, Jets versus Browns. Man, remember week 1 when everyone was so hyped for how well Sam Darnold played, and then I said, guys, he didn't even get to 200 yards. And week 2 strolls along and, oh look, he's not actually that good. I kind of saw that coming, and I think, as a rookie quarterback and as a quarterback in general, he's going to have a somewhat rough time against good defenses. The Lions didn't have a good defense, and he was able to do well against them, for the most part. The Dolphins did have a good defense, and he kind of got slaughtered. The Browns, I think, have an even better defense than the Dolphins do, but they're not divisional rivals, so I don't think he'll do too terribly. And on the Browns side of things, they just cannot score points. I think the offense that Hugh Jackson or whoever is using is just too conservative. They have to take more chances because they're not scoring points the way it is. I'm going to take the Browns in this one, 24 to 17, because I just don't trust Sam Darnold to win this game against such a good Browns defense. Next up, Bills versus Vikings. The Bills have looked terrible. The Vikings have looked great. So I'm going to have to give this to the Vikings 38 to 10. The Vikings defense is just going to swarm poor Josh Allen, and as good as the Bills defense could be, it can't take being on the field the whole game. Alright, Giants versus Texans. The Giants have all of the potential. If you watch their defense, it was not a bad defense. I wouldn't call it an elite defense, but it was pretty good. It held its own, all things considered. And the offense, you got Odell Beckham, you got Sterling Shepard, you have Saquon Barkley, who looks absolutely incredible. I usually don't trust scat backs, especially coming out of college, but after watching the guy in the NFL, I can say that yes, he is the real deal. But the issue is the offensive line. Saquon Barkley will always make the first guy miss, but if the first guy is 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, that doesn't mean all too much for him. And Eli Manning, not one of his receiving weapons are going to mean a thing if he doesn't have the time to throw the ball. So the Giants, if they could get this offensive line fixed, they'd probably be one of the strongest teams in the NFL. But since the offensive line isn't fixed, they just have major problems. And with the Texans being so experienced, they'll know how to attack this offensive line. And even though the Texans are going through some troubles of their own, I think they can take this 17 to 14. Packers versus Redskins. The Packers, they just play really close games. you can tell that the team is not good, but Aaron Rodgers is good enough. Like, he is single-handedly tying these games or getting them these victories. And it feels bad that he has to be on such a bad team, but that's the way it is right now. Now, the Redskins, well, remember when everyone was hyped up for Adrian Peterson being back? So much for that. Kind of like I said. Anyway, the Redskins should have more luck against the Packers in terms of scoring points and touchdowns, but I don't think it'll be by all that much, and I trust Aaron Rodgers to take down the Redskins. If he can tie the Vikings, he can beat the Skins 24-17. 49ers against the Chiefs. Chiefs offense has been absolutely electrifying. And Mahomes, I've done the math, he is on pace to throw 80 touchdown passes. That's huge. Now, obviously, he's not going to keep that pace. The current record held by Peyton Manning is 55, so Mahomes will not get to 80. He probably won't even break that record. But there's no denying that this Chiefs offense is absolutely deadly. The problem, though, is that Chiefs defense is absolutely worthless. They scored all those touchdowns partially because they needed to score all those touchdowns. Now for the 49ers, they've looked decent. I can't say it's a playoff team, but it's definitely a very close to the playoffs team, just all around. In this scenario, I'm going to say the Chiefs' offense, the 49ers aren't going to be able to slow it down quite enough, and they won't be scoring quite enough. So I'll give this to the Chiefs 25-18. Raiders versus Dolphins. Well, Dolphins, you have exceeded my expectations. That said, you haven't done it by much, and while people are apparently hyped for you, I'm not buying it. You edged out the Titans when they didn't have their quarterback, their best receiver, or their best offensive lineman. And that's a game you barely won. The next week you go up against a weak Jets team, and you barely win that one. Now, fortunately for you, though, you're up against the Raiders, who are another extremely weak team. So you should be able to get this win over them 24-21. They've shown themselves to be a bit better against the Broncos, but I still don't trust the Raiders to beat many people. Maybe the Bills, Cardinals, but that's about it. Oh, this is nice. Colts versus Eagles. Well, the Eagles are pissed off and hungry for a win. They have a really good defensive line that's going to terrorize our offensive line as best it can. The Colts aren't going to get any rushing yards, and the passing game is going to be our only hope, as is per usual. Now, we do have the Eagles' old offensive coordinator who, so far into the season, they do seem to be missing, but I don't know how much that means specifically for this matchup. Is it good for us that we have Frank Reich who knows about the Eagles? Or is it good for the Eagles that they know about Frank Reich's offense? I don't know which one's more important, and we'll kind of see here. I'm betting on the Eagles 34-24 because they're a lot more complete than the Colts are. Titans versus Jaguars. Well, the Titans may or may not get Mariota back. And they're not getting their best receiver back, I don't think. Their offensive linemen might be back. But regardless, the Jaguars are going to take this. They did a great job against the Patriots, and the Titans just don't have any players that can really beat the Jaguars' defense at any position. So I'll take the Jaguars here, 24-10. Now, the battle of the kitty cats. The Bengals against the Panthers. The Bengals continue to look like a legitimately good team. They're definitely a playoff team in my mind, and they did lose their center, but apparently it didn't hurt them too bad, I don't think. Now, another issue is that Joe Mixon is out, and he'll be out for a while. Hopefully he can come back because he was doing really good, but his absence I don't think is going to affect this game because the Panthers aren't going to give up the run to the Bengals anyway. Now, as for the Panthers, they have problems scoring. They just do not put up a lot of points. They're a defensive team, so that makes sense. But I just don't think they even have the potential to put up big points. They're more of a consistent offense where they'll get about this many points every time. The problem being that in this case, that many points that they're basically saying we will get isn't quite enough, and I'll have the Bengals take this 27-17. Broncos against Ravens. Both of these teams off to some decent starts. The Ravens, they look like a decent team. The Broncos, they look like a decent team. Nothing spectacular from either, except maybe the Broncos' new running back. I forget his name. He's apparently been doing a good job. I'll have to look into his highlights to see if he's legit. But I'm not entirely certain who should win this game because both teams are just so similar in their style and their quality. The Broncos' running game has been doing more than the Ravens' running game. The Ravens' passing game has done more than the Broncos' passing game. So, which one do I prefer? Honestly, neither. But I have to predict a winner, so I'll go with my gut and say it's the Ravens, 21-17. Alright, Saints versus Falcons. The Saints are starting to shake off the rust. The defense got better against the Browns, although there's a chance that was just the Browns being the Browns. And if the defense still has any rust whatsoever, I don't think they have any chance whatsoever against the Falcons, even if their offense gets rolling. The Falcons' offense, it got better against the Panthers, got better in the red zone, got better at getting to the red zone. And the Saints have a lesser defense than the Panthers do so far. I'm going to give this one to the Falcons 36-27 because Drew Brees and Alvin Kamara are still going to get their points. They just won't get enough points. Chargers versus Rams, the Battle of Los Angeles. The Chargers are missing a Joey Bosa, which does have quite the impact on some games. It hasn't really been what bit them so far, but it is going to be an issue eventually, and it's definitely an issue in this game. Though I will say that with the Rams trusting Todd Gurley so much, I don't think it would matter too much, because the Chargers still don't have that run defense. The Rams have gotten off to an incredible start, and I fully expect them to continue that by beating the Chargers 32-21. Bears against Cardinals. Oh my God, Cardinals. You have played terribly. I'm not sure a team has ever gotten off to this bad a start before. I don't judge players by their fantasy points because there are flaws in that system, but Sam Bradford has about 5.5 fantasy points. Compare that to, even Drew Brees. Well, no. Phillip Rivers, who's got about 51, and he's not first place. Usual for a quarterback is around, at this point, is 35 total. And you are not near that, my dude. It's really bad. The Cardinals' O-line has been terrible. Anyone who took David Johnson in their fantasy draft is basically last place. And this thing is just a horrible mess. I do think they can get some wins, though, but it has to be against a bad team, and the Bears are not a bad team. They are going to be able to abuse that O-line so badly. Their offense should be able to put up points against a team that is not scoring. And I know there's still major flaws with the Bears in their win against the Seahawks. They just refuse to run the ball. Matt Nagy must, they're going to have to trade Jordan Howard because it's clear Matt Nagy has some sort of despise for the running back position, like it killed his family or something. It's bad. But the Bears are good, and they're going to win 28-7. Cowboys against Seahawks. Kind of an interesting game because the Seahawks obviously have some good pieces on defense. Shaquem Griffin has been really, really good. But the defense is obviously not complete. It's not the force it once was, which we expected coming in. And the Seahawks offense is actually good enough to work with what's left of the defense and get the team a winning record. I think this team could be good enough to be 9-7, 7-9 at worst, if their schedule is set right. On a normal schedule against normal teams, they're 7-9, 9-7. They're an average team. But they're not. And for the third week in a row, the Seahawks are up against a team that's really good at rushing the passer. And Russell Wilson limits that weakness as best he can, but he can't make up for it all the way. The Cowboys are going to keep bringing pressure, and they're going to be able to edge this one out because I don't trust their offense completely. But the Cowboys edge this out 21-18. Now, the Sunday night game is Patriots versus Lions. And this is honestly an interesting point for both teams because they're both kind of the same in that neither one has a functional defense. Neither one really uses its running game that much or even tries. But they both rely on their quarterbacks. And basically it's a question of, do you trust Matthew Stafford and his receivers or Tom Brady and his receivers? And that is kind of an interesting question. Who actually is better at scoring points at this point? Matthew Stafford's definitely good at it. I'm going to trust Brady and Gronk a little more, though. Maybe Josh Gordon even gets some action because the Browns traded him to the Patriots, which was stupid, but maybe he doesn't play this week, he'll play next week, and in the meantime, Patriots beat Lions 31-27. It will be close and it will be high scoring. Steelers against Buccaneers. The Buccaneers have been on an incredible run, and it has to come back to reality at some point. And I think this is going to be that point. The Steelers' offense has been great. Now, it's had to be great because the defense in the Chiefs game stunk it up. In the Browns game, it was terrible weather. No one was going to do really well. But the Steelers have definitely had their own problems. I can't deny that. But at some point, this was the playoff team last year. They were Super Bowl hopefuls heading into the season. There is some talent. It will show up. And the Buccaneers have to come back to reality at some point. So I feel like it's going to be right here. That and the Steelers I think are going to be able to stick with their running game unlike they did against the Chiefs. I don't think Vita Vea is back for the Bucs quite yet. If he was, maybe this would be different. But either way, I'm going to take the Steelers here, and I'm going to have them win 38-17. The Fitzmagic will be toned down a bit. Well, those are my picks for the week. You can leave yours in the comment section below, and I'll see you later. G'day.